I'm the child in the family who was always looked down on by my dad. He was just obsessed with my brother. Then he says, you know what? I don't care if you got accepted to some prestigious college. You have to go to the local college because we don't want your brother to be jealous of you. Well, you know what, guys? I pretended everything was okay. I said, you know what, Dad? Okay, fine, I'll go to that college, on one condition, I get to stay in the dorms. Well, I lied to him. I pretended to stay in the dorms and went to the prestigious college on a scholarship he doesn't know about. But when he finds out, he's going to explode. What would you do if the people who barely acknowledged your existence for 3 years suddenly wanted you to show up and play family for a day? That would be one heck of a tricky situation, right? I mean, it's always going to be like that with family, especially family like mine. Let me start from the beginning. My name's Jonas, and if you haven't guessed by now, my family is all sorts of twisted. And I mean it. That is, if you can even call it a family. I mean, what do you call the people who gave birth to you, only to suddenly forget about you when they found a better version of you? Can that even be called family? Let me put it straight instead of running around in circles. I could have had a happy family if my parents actually treated both their children equally. But no, my parents are a bunch of biased jerks who have been treating me like background noise for as long as I can remember, just because my brother Roman was the healthier kid. I mean, Roman was one of those healthy, cute babies who caught everyone's attention in a jiffy, while I was the skinny, average-looking one that nobody particularly wanted to hold. But should these things actually affect parents so much that they start differentiating between their kids? It shouldn't, right? But it was different with my parents, Patrick and Marin. Within a month of Roman's birth, he became their golden child, the baby who got them praise from everyone. I mean, he wasn't extraordinary or anything, he was just the better-looking one, what people call the main character. So, everyone was taken by him, while I was always the supporting character, standing there in the background, always forgotten. You can imagine what a horrible childhood I must have had. My parents ignored me and only paid for my basic necessities, while my arrogant brother let all of this attention get to his head. All of this pampering and extra care led Roman to grow up as a spoiled brat who cared for no one but himself. So, you can imagine what kind of relationship we shared. I was the shy, introverted kid, while Roman turned out to be a big old bully. Can you imagine that? Being bullied by your little brother? Yeah, well, that was the case for me. It seemed like Roman had made it his life's mission to make mine miserable, whether through crazy tantrums that got my parents to ruin my plans or by directly taking away the things I liked. It was a bad situation in itself, am I right? Now, add a pair of biased parents into the equation, and you can imagine how miserable my childhood was. My parents were the root cause of Roman growing up to be such a brat. While Roman got showered with new toys, attention, and praise, I got, well, let's just say I never had to worry about being spoiled. My birthdays were a formality, my achievements never mattered much, and my role in the family was more or less that of a background prop. I remember one time in 3rd grade when I got straight A's on my report card. I was excited, you know? I thought maybe, just this once, I'd get a pat on the back or something. But when I showed it to my mother, all I got was, that's good, as she continued talking about what a cute little drawing Roman had made that we just had to put on the refrigerator. Yes, Roman's crooked dog drawing took center stage, while my straight A report card was tossed into the pile of forgotten papers in the junk drawer. So, you see how things were. I was like that forgotten report card, while my brother was praised for every little thing. But it wasn't just the little things, oh no. Roman got to pick where we went on family vacations, what we had for dinner, and even what we watched on television. Every time I tried to select something, I was shut down, and that idiot Roman rubbed it in my face as much as he possibly could. He was the king, and I was nothing more than a servant. So, I guess you can start to understand why I wanted to leave this hellhole as soon as I could. And I even got the perfect opportunity. I was looking to pursue a bachelor's degree and landed a scholarship at one of the top colleges in the world. It was a really prestigious college, the type that guarantees a successful career for its students. Getting a scholarship there? Oh boy, that's a dream. But here's the catch, it was a few states away. And, like everything I held dear in my life, my parents couldn't let me have this one either. You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 2. Part 2. Want to know the reason? Of course, it was Roman. My parents even said that I could just study at the local college in our state as it was a better opportunity and option. They argued that since Roman, who was not that bright academically, might feel bad that I got opportunities to study at such a prestigious college while he couldn't, I should stay local. I mean, what was stopping him? He could have worked his butt off like I did and gotten what he wanted. But of course, none of this made sense to my parents. They told me I had to go to the local college. You see how ridiculous this whole thing was? Somewhere in my mind, I thought they were doing this just to ensure I didn't outshine Roman. It was like they saw potential in me but actively chose to ignore it, as if giving me any real support would somehow threaten Roman's golden child status. Why else would they push so hard for me to stay at the local college, while Roman, who wasn't even half as ambitious, got all the encouragement in the world? It was as though I wasn't supposed to be more successful than him. That wasn't part of their script. But did I let that foolishness get to me? No. No. I had already sacrificed a lot to keep up with the family and their crazy, biased antics. But I decided I'd had enough. I told my parents that I would only settle for the local college if they allowed me to stay in the college dorms. My parents agreed, a bit too happily, thinking they had convinced me to stay back at the local college. But did they really? Not a chance in hell. I took the scholarship and moved states away, while my parents believed I was studying at the local college. The best part was that the prestigious college I got admitted to had the finance course I wanted in just 2 years, while the local college offered it in 4. So it was perfect, because this meant I could graduate earlier than my parents even expected. Honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. Not only did I escape the hellhole my parents created, but this college was the epitome of success. I say this because, right after graduating, I landed a 6-figure salary and have been in this job for a year. Things are actually looking up for me, as I'm even close to getting a promotion. I managed it all. The scholarship covered 70% of the fees, while I used the money my father sent, supposedly for the local college fees, to cover other expenses. Now, I'm living the good life. My father still sends me money, thinking I'm studying at the local college, and I haven't told him to stop. I know it's sort of wrong, but I consider it payback. For the last 3 years, I've been in low contact with my family. There were a few checkup calls here and there and even 1 or 2 visits to my house during the holidays, so they wouldn't get too suspicious. Other than that, they haven't bothered me much, and I've been able to stay away, telling them I've been busy with studies. Honestly, they don't seem to care much anyway. I mean, why would they? They had their golden child. Now, the one guy they were forced to take care of was out of their lives, so it was a win-win for my parents. I was actually content with this arrangement. It did hurt, from time to time, that my parents didn't care enough to know I had moved states away. But the sadness was tempered by the peace of no longer having their toxic presence around me. Truth be told, though, I did miss having a family. Not a dysfunctional one like mine, but just the feeling of having a family that actually cared about me. Despite all the friends and luxuries, it felt like something was missing from my life. However, this seemed impossible to fix, until this morning. Today, my father called to inform me that Roman was getting married, and he wanted me there days before the wedding to help with preparations. I was taken aback. Was my father really asking me to come home? I had craved this moment for so long, especially when he told me I was part of the family and he wanted everyone present for Roman's big day. I actually got emotional. My parents had never acknowledged me as part of their family. For them, it was mostly them and Roman. But now, my father especially wanted me at the wedding. It was overwhelming, this newfound recognition from my parents. But then again, I was reminded that these were the same people who had ignored me throughout my childhood. Even now, they didn't know their eldest son was living states away from them. Do I really want to go back to these people, only to be ignored again like I've been my entire life? This is where I find myself stuck in a dilemma, and I want to ask you all, what would you do if you were in my shoes? I miss the sense of family, and it would be great to have them care about me for once. But the thought of going back, only for them to shatter my expectations yet again, haunts me. Should I accept their invitation and go to my brother's wedding, just for the sake of family? Or should I stick to my decision of living far away from them and not let them hurt me again? Before we dive into It's been 2 days, and I've had a lot of time to think about what I should do. In the end, I've decided to protect my peace, even though some of you might not agree with my decision. I chose not to accept my father's invitation to Roman's wedding, and honestly, it feels like the best decision I've ever made. Spoiler alert, my parents haven't changed, and they never will. Let me pick up where I left off in my initial post. After some thought, I texted my father, simply stating that I wouldn't be able to make it. No long-winded explanation, no excuses, just the truth. I wasn't coming. I expected a bit of pushback, but I didn't expect how quickly the manipulation would start. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up with texts left and right. First, my mother tried to guilt trip me. She asked if I really wanted to miss Roman's big day, if I wanted to be that brother, and how disappointed Roman would be if I wasn't there. She went on about how much it would mean to Roman if his older brother were present. Really? She also tried to play the you only get one family card. But here's the thing, Roman's big day didn't mean a thing to me, because Roman had never once cared about any of my important days. Not one. And yeah, you only get one family, but you can click on share and more to see if there is a part 3. Part 3. But only if they act right, you know? So, I told the same thing to my mother, that I was not coming, and when the guilt tripping didn't work, my father stepped in with his own set of crazy tactics. He tried to play it cool at first, saying things like how family should stick together for occasions like this. When I still didn't budge, he decided to play dirty. He called me and said that if I didn't show up to Roman's wedding, they would stop paying for my college fees. He claimed they couldn't afford to have people whispering about how one of their sons wasn't present at such an important event. Basically, they wanted to maintain the facade of a happy family for all the friends and neighbors. It was all about appearances, as usual, not about me, not about Roman, but about how the family was viewed by others. That's when I actually lost it. I mean, how selfish could someone possibly be? threatening to stop paying my college fees just so I would show up at a wedding. It was so stupid, even more so considering I didn't care about a dime of the money they gave me. So, I told my father, go ahead, stop paying the college fees. I'm not coming to the wedding, and nothing you say or threaten will change that. I still didn't tell him that I had graduated a year ago and was living states away with a six-figure job and a life they could never have given me. I didn't want them to know how good my life was yet, or where I was, because they would just ruin the good things in my life. I know I have to tell them the truth sometime, and I will soon enough, but for now, I was having fun. My refusal to attend my brother's wedding, even after my father's threats, only made him angrier. He ranted about how ungrateful I was, how I had always been difficult, and how he was going to withdraw my name from the local college to teach me a lesson. He said it like it was some great threat, as if being removed from a place I had never even set foot in would devastate me. Little did he know, the truth was far from that. Honestly, I couldn't help but laugh. I could have told him I was never enrolled in the local college, but where's the fun in that, guys? So now I'm just waiting for my father to go and try to withdraw my name from a college I was never even enrolled in. I'm honestly waiting for his reaction when he realizes I don't need him or his money anymore. That's going to be a shocker, and it's only a matter of time before my phone rings again with another set of insults. I honestly can't wait. Anyway, I'll keep you guys updated on what happens. Until then, so long. Hey guys, it's Jonas again. I know it's been, just a day since my previous update, but the never-ending drama of my life just got a lot crazier. After my last post, I had a feeling my father wouldn't take my refusal to attend Roman's wedding lightly. Turns out, I was right. It all started with a phone call from him this morning, and boy, was he livid. He was furious and didn't waste a single second before asking me where I had been all this time and what the hell I had been doing with all the money he sent for my college fees. It was like watching a toddler throw a tantrum about not getting his favorite toy. Only this time, it was my father, driven crazy by the events around him. Apparently, after our last call, my father had gone to the local college. Yes, this is where it gets really interesting. He went there to withdraw my name, just so he could teach me a lesson. That guy was so delusional that he thought withdrawing my name from the college and cutting off my education would make me come to Roman's wedding. Clearly, he was mistaken. So, obviously, when my father went to the local college, he was in for the surprise of his life. The local college had no record of my enrollment. It must have been quite a scene, my father standing there, trying to cancel my enrollment while there was no Jonas in the college. I bet the whole realization hit him like a punch in the gut. Naturally, the anger from his brief humiliation at the college was clear in his tone during our call. He wanted answers as to where I had been these past 3 months and what I had been doing with all that money. But honestly, the situation was so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh. After some more angry words from my father and a bit of stalling from me, I decided to tell him the truth. I told him that I had already graduated a year ago on a scholarship, and the money he had been sending for my college fees had been a great help. Then, I dropped the bigger bomb. I told him I now had a 6-figure salary and was earning more than him. The disappointment in his tone was clear when he asked if I was kidding, but he knew it wasn't a joke. The realization that I was no longer the struggling student he thought I was, but an independent man with a great life, must have been a bitter pill for him to swallow. I was ready for what came next. As soon as my father processed what I had just said, he started lashing out, accusing me of betrayal for keeping them in the dark. He ranted about how much he had done for me, only to be met with this betrayal. Done so much for me? Was he talking about how he and my mother ignored me for years to dote on their favorite child? Then he came up with the stupidest idea ever. He told me the only way he would forgive me was if I attended Roman's wedding and ensured there was no scandal or gossip about the family. I couldn't believe it. This man still only cared about his image. I don't get why he's suddenly so obsessed with the family's image. It never bothered him before. Anyway, I told him I didn't need his forgiveness, and I certainly didn't want to be a part of their charade, pretending we were one big happy family. My father, still furious, tried to convince me to come to the wedding. He honestly seemed desperate at this point, but I stood my ground. I told him there wasn't a chance in hell I would attend the wedding of the man who ruined my childhood. Not only that, but I also told him I was done with the drama and was cutting them off. My father was shocked, but I didn't stay quiet. I had spent my entire childhood that way, taking everything quietly, but not anymore. I told him I didn't want any of them to contact me again and that they could enjoy their golden son's wedding without me while I enjoyed my life. My dad tried to manipulate me emotionally again, but this time, I wasn't having it. You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 4. Part 4. Talking about how I was his son and that I must attend my brother's wedding, but I was done. I just told him that he only ever had one son, since he was the one they all seemed to care about. So, they could keep it that way, as I was happily cutting them off. I didn't even give my father another chance to reply. I just cut the call and blocked his number. And this is where I stand right now, officially cut off from the toxic presence of my family. It's a bittersweet feeling, since I never wanted things to come to this. But I'm also somewhat content because I know it had to be done. At least now I can live my life peacefully, and if things go well, maybe I can make a family of my own someday. So, it's been over a month since I cut my family off. I thought I was done with all that drama and manipulation, but obviously, They could not let things go so easily. A few days ago, out of nowhere, I got this call from an unknown number. It turned out to be my mother, full on sobbing. I had blocked all their calls, so I was a bit taken aback when I got this one out of the blue. I decided not to hang up on her, thinking something bad might have happened. But it was nothing of that sort. She started telling me how much she misses me and how she just wanted her son back. She said she didn't care about what me or dad did, none of that mattered to her, she just wanted me to be part of the family again. I was confused. I mean, where was this energy before? When I told them I was cutting them off, they didn't seem to care, and now, all of a sudden, my mother wanted to patch things up. That was a bit suspicious, don't you think? So, I just hung up on her, telling her I'd talk to her later. I had this feeling something wasn't right. So, I reached out to my aunt, my mom's sister, to see if she had any insight. Boy, what she told me was crazy, and it confirmed all my doubts. Apparently, Roman's wedding was an absolute disaster, a complete crap storm. It turns out that his oh-so-perfect fiancée was basically a full-blown scammer. Before the wedding, she somehow convinced Roman, my parents, and a bunch of family members to invest all their savings into some shady once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity. And guess what? It was all a fraud. She took the money and dipped. There was no wedding. She's gone, and so are my family's savings. But that wasn't even the end of it. My aunt also told me that my parents were in way deeper trouble than I thought. Apparently, my father caused some kind of scene with an employee and his family, which led to a huge loss in his already dying business. And then it all clicked for me. This is why he was so desperate to get me to the wedding, because he wanted to save his image by showing how he valued his perfect family and all those values. But of course, it didn't work. This fiasco with Roman and his fiancée just added to the bad press. So, basically, they're losing money left and right. And to make things worse, they put their house up as collateral for a loan to try to save the business. But of course, that blew up in their faces too, and now they're about to lose their home. They had to move into some rundown trailer or studio apartment because that was all they could afford. Now everything was clear to me. My mom wasn't calling because she missed me or wanted me back. It was because they desperately needed me. They knew I was doing well for myself and now wanted to use me as a safety net. I understood it all. They were out of options, and I was their last hope. Well, I wasn't playing that game. I wasn't getting dragged back into their mess, especially now that I saw the whole picture. I mean, they never cared about me because they were too busy catering to Roman and all his needs. But here's the catch. My parents are now even fighting with Roman because they blame him for everything, for the entire wedding fiasco, for all the money they lost. It's kind of funny, actually. The golden child they built their lives around is the one who ruined it all. And, not going to lie, it gave me some sense of satisfaction that they were finally seeing the error of their ways. Anyway, I couldn't care less. I'm staying out of the drama. After my mother called me, I blocked her again. I wasn't going to let her emotionally manipulate me. But did that stop my parents from reaching out? No, of course not. This was them being desperate and clingy, people who refused to accept things not going their way. Soon enough, my parents showed up at my home. Don't ask me how, I don't know how they got the address, but I guess they badgered some of my old buddies for information. But the how doesn't matter. What matters is that they turned up at my door, reminding me of family values and how, as their older son, I was their responsibility, and now, somehow, they were mine. I slammed the door in their faces, of course, as they begged me to help them, saying they were broke and had spent the last of their savings booking a flight to meet me. Well, that sucks for them, but I wasn't going to help. This isn't even the end of it. A few days later, Roman showed up at my doorstep, literally crying and begging me for help. He said he missed having his big brother in his life. I don't know what big brother he's talking about because all I remember is him bullying me. I told him as much, but he kept begging, saying that mom and dad were going to cut him off soon because they were mad at him for getting them into this mess. It was all for nothing. Roman met the same fate as my parents. I shut the door in his face too, warning him that if any of them showed up again, I'd call the police. Since then, I haven't heard from any of them, and honestly, I don't care. I'm done with this toxic family. I do feel a bit sad that things with my family came to this, because the void they left will always be there in my life. But I'm not taking their crap anymore just for the sake of family.